Gentlemen, welcome to the 2024 Boys Nation debate of the presidential and vice presidential candidates. We shall be asking 8 questions of the presidential candidates, and we'll begin with the opening statement, no longer than 1 minute for each candidate. You will have 1 minute to respond to each question and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. We ask the audience not to applaud while asking the question or responding to the question, because it will take away from their time debating. We will begin with the opening statement of the nationalist president. Wherever you want.
Well,
Senator Sims.
first and foremost, I'm only up here if we both can agree civil discussion. That's what we need. We don't need to consistently sit here and divide our parties or our Boys Nation any more than it already is. So, if every candidate on the stage can agree to that, then I'm 110%. Thank you.
Senator Johnson.
All right, well, first off, thank you all so much for attending this. Mr. Senator, it's going to be an honor running against you. And I 100% agree to those terms, but I also believe that we need to be firm and strong in our opinions and what we believe in. Civil discussion is entirely important, but it's important that we have our platform, we have our ideals, and we stand by them firmly and strong. Compromise is important, but we must be strong to our ideals.
The vice presidential candidates will give responses during their debate. The first question, Senator Sims. Inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since 2021, the price of essentials has decreased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What will you do once you reach the office of the president to help the American consumer?
As the average American consumer, I'm affected by these, especially in my community. I'm especially affected by my community. But everyday Americans are struggling with inflation, so that's what I need to address. So first, like cutting tariffs and increasing reduced energy, we can begin investing in a multitude of items and things.
Senator Johnson, you have 1 minute to respond.
I absolutely agree, Senator. It is an incredibly important issue facing our Americans, and it is something that we need to be fixing during this administration. It's important to realize that the economy is offsetted from the presidency, so the policies that we've been facing recently are now hitting, and that's what we're seeing these issues going on right now. Currently, it is unlivable to go through as an average American. I come from a small rural town where people struggle to afford the price of gas. They struggle to afford the price of snacks, of food. Some people don't eat in the night. This is a real issue that people are facing. I propose that we start and initiate a progressive increase in the minimum wage federally. That does not mean we increase it to $25 and mess up, our entire economic system, but I believe that a gradual increase will stimulate our economy, promote more spending of money, promote more consumerism, stimulate everything that we need to develop our economy. Inflation is important. Inflation is natural in an economic situation, but it's important that we stand by these ideas. Thank you.
Senator Sims, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. No rebuttal? Senator Johnson, you were given another 30 seconds for your rebuttal.
I believe if he has nothing to argue against my point, then I think that makes my point stand even stronger.
Senator Johnson, the American Legion, which is our country's largest veteran organization, advocates for a strong national defense. Considering the United States has the world's largest defense budget, which is over $800 billion, and has an active duty force of almost 1.3 million service members, what will your administration do with respect to our national defense?
Absolutely, sir, and I think this goes beyond just national defense. The United States is that great beacon of a city on a hill that unites our entire world around the ideals of democracy. And it is important that we defend our great nation as well as our allies in our great world, and I promote the usage of national spending. But it is important as we go through this next generation of technology, this next generation of innovation, that we strive to audit and reallocate some of the funds that we're using in our national defense budget. How is our infantry going to be affected by the usage of AI, of recent technology advancements? We need to be discussing these questions and realizing how we are utilizing our money to most effectively promote national and world security, while also promoting our European and world allies and increasing their contributions to both NATO defense, to Ukrainian defense, and world defense. Thank you.
Senator Sims, I'll repeat the question for you. The American Legion, which is our country's largest veteran organization, advocates for a strong national defense. Considering the United States has the world's largest defense budget, which is over $800 billion, and has an active duty force of almost 1.3 million service members, what will your administration do with respect to our national defense?
Well, we do have the largest military budget in the world. By not decreasing or increasing to the point where we drive ourselves into debt with our military budget, we can sustain a stable military budget. Then invest in technologies which improve cares for our service members, such as child care, health care, and increasing their pay gradually. So by supporting our service members, we can continuously sustain a stable military.
Senator Johnson, you have 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, he makes a lot of really great points. It is critical that we care for our service members and our veterans throughout the entirety of our situation in the national government. But it is important that the senator said we could defend these things, but you can't have a repair on a crumbling house while it's already fallen. You need to repair the foundation strong. You need to repair it in a very passionate way. And I believe that as our veterans are going, we need to be defending their rights. Thank you.
Well, I don't believe in as they're going. We need to start it now. We should be defending our veterans now. We shouldn't wait until we're done or they're almost out of our service. That's not how this works. The more we continue to invest in our service members and their well-being, the more capable they will be when it's time to go out on the grounds and battles of war. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses. Senator Sims, Russia's war against Ukraine is now in its third year. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. How will your administration work with NATO and the countries involved to end this war?
The United States has already invested hundreds of billions of dollars into the war of Ukraine. If Ukraine wants to join NATO and the NATO allies want Ukraine to join, we need to make them give a fair share in investing in Ukraine and helping them defend themselves. Vladimir Putin is a reckless dictator, and we need to begin to stand up to him. No, you cannot have Ukrainian land just by you going in and taking it. But we also have a responsibility to support our allies and their defense. We made a commitment. We need to stand by our word as Americans, as a nation. Thank you.
Senator Johnson, I'll repeat the question. Russia's war against Ukraine is now in its third year. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. How will your administration work with NATO and the countries involved to end this war?
Yeah. Due to this conflict, millions of Ukrainians are in their houses without electricity right now, struggling around lanterns. They are lost and they are afraid about the future of their nation. We need to be that shining beacon of light that the United States is founded upon and be that defender of democracy. And I believe that we need to continue to send our full support of Ukraine, encourage our European allies to pay their fair share, continue, but most importantly, keep our American soldiers off of Ukrainian soil. We're not going to have another Vietnam and we're not going to have another Korea, but it is important important that we stand for democracy, that we stand for the future of world peace. Thank you.
Senator Sims, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
And yes, I concur. There are millions of Ukrainians in their homes, houses falling down, lights out. But I also know another country that has millions of people that are lights out, falling down, that hundreds of billions of dollars of their taxpayer dollars is going across the waters. We need to begin reinvesting in Americans and not
I agree, Senator. We do need to make sure that our European allies are paying their fair share and supporting our Ukrainian allies. But do you know where most of our European money is going? It's going towards national American contractors to build money and build weapons and weapons. We are stimulating the American economy while also promoting world peace, and I think that both of those things can coexist. Thank you.
Senator Johnson, the Food and Drug Administration has recently decided to declassify cannabis to no longer be Schedule 1. If elected, would you do anything to change this decision, and how would you handle potential legal challenges of decades of imprisonment for possession, intent to sell, and use of cannabis?
Thank you. I disagree, and my administration disagrees with the criminalization of cannabis usage. Now, the reason for that is because this drug is not like fentanyl. This is not premeditated murder when this is put in people's food, people's consuming items. This is something that all it does is, it is a personal choice. And what we are doing by criminalizing it is crowding our prison systems, promoting punishments over rehabilitation, and doing nothing to help the common welfare of the American people. We need to support rehab programs, build more infrastructure for rehab centers, but we do not need to criminalize cannabis, and I fully support that decision.
Senator Sims, do you need a question repeated? You have 1 minute.
All right. Well, yes, I agree we need to rehabilitate, but also, while many of these people are in prison for cannabis, why are they there? Well, they're impaired while driving, they have possession because they're former felons, they have guns and carry them on them. They're doing these crimes while under the influence, and they're a danger to public safety. So if we continue to fight against this epidemic that has started, that we normalize, our public safety is at risk. Citizens are at risk. Our children are at risk.
Senator Johnson, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
So where do you think crime comes from? Crime is a cultural thing. Crime is not some health crisis. And it does not get solved by imprisoning over 1 million Americans and making what we need to be doing is promoting rehab, building and investing in these areas, these unprivileged areas where the majority of this crime, the majority of these drugs are being circulated, and support these areas, not bring them down by spending so much money on policing these areas. We need to spend money on supporting these areas.
You have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Well, I will need clarification eventually on what you mean by crime is a cultural thing. My understanding coming from a community that is ridden with drugs and crime, I think putting these people away and off our streets, then helping them rehabilitate. But if they decide to come back out and consistently be repeat offenders, we need to put them in jail. We need to.
Senator Sims, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed our borders over the past 4 years, overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. How will your administration and Department of Homeland Security combat illegal immigration?
Well, first and foremost, stop busing these immigrants to major cities. That is not how we solve this at all. By enhancing border security and supporting our Department of Homeland Security, and also directing the Department of Defense Secretary to begin divesting funds that support the border as well. We have troops down there, utilize them. This is an invasion, and it is not something up for negotiation.
Senator Johnson, do you need the question repeated?
Oh, thank you.
You have 1 minute.
America was built by immigration. From the Mayflower, we sailed, we immigrated through Ellis Island. This is what foundates our country and our cultural melting pot that we call home. And I believe that we need to continue to support immigration. But we need to do it legally. And so I support building a more strong infrastructure at our borders, sending more federal judges down there to make the process more efficient, and supporting the process of naturalizing illegal aliens into our country to be foundational citizens. We do not need to send these young men who are coming to our country trying to make a living and a life for themselves away. We need to offer them an opportunity to become hard-blooded Americans like we are.
You have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Yes, we should offer them a welcoming hand. Yes, our nation was founded by immigrants, but they want to enter our nation and become citizens of the American dream. Sure, why not do it legally? There is a process. Restructuring the process? Sure. Allow them in just because there are immigrants? No. We need to stand strong and support the American citizens that are already here as well.
Thank you, sir. And the term rebuttal confuses me because I don't really understand how that was a rebuttal, and I fully support exactly what you said. I believe that we can send more federal judges, more infrastructure, like I've already stated, to make a smoother and cleaner process while also increasing security to make it a stronger and safer process. I fully support everything you said, and thank you for endorsing.
Senator Johnson, many of the tax cuts of 2017 that were signed into law are set to expire next year. Some may want to extend them, while others may want to eliminate them entirely. How will your administration handle these tax cuts for working class Americans, top earners, and corporations?
Yes, sir, and the key word there is working class Americans. These tax cuts from 2017 have done absolutely nothing to help our working class and the benefit of the wealthy. And I think that in this country, our economic disequity in our country is absolutely unacceptable. Therefore, I support the exact same levels of income tax that we have, but increasing capital gains tax, the primary factor in reducing wealth in our country and keeping those stocks high, because that is where a lot of our money is staying. That's why inflation is rising, because nothing is getting spent and consumerism is on a download because of it. Therefore, I believe that we need to get rid of those tax cuts and increase our capital gains tax. Thank you.
Senator Sims, would you like the question repeated? Many of the tax cuts of 2017 that were signed into law are set to expire next year. Some may want to extend them, while others may want to eliminate them entirely. How will your administration handle these tax cuts for working class Americans, top earners, and corporations?
Well, by taking a full look and broad view of the tax cuts, then I will make a decision. I make my decisions based on advisors. I don't make decisions just for myself, especially ones that affect the entire United States. Now, my biggest thing here is we need to be, yes, investing in lower and middle class Americans, but also we need to stop the tax loopholes that are at the top, and this is one of them. So no, I'm joking.
Senator Johnson, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yes, Senator, I would just like some clarification on how these tax cuts do help working class Americans, because there are a mountain of statistics that go against that. So if I could just get some clarification on that, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Senator Sims, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
At which point did I say these tax cuts were helping working class Americans? The ones from 2017, I never said that.
Is it? You have 23 seconds left.
I never stated that at any point. These lower, I just stated these tax cuts are not helping working class Americans. So we need to begin to cut tax loopholes. And also, let's make these corporations pay their fair share to help those lives. That's the way it's done. I don't know if you guys have a statement. I can say it.
Senator Sims, there have been consistent calls from Congress for America's energy independence, either through investments in green energy or usage of oil pipelines. How will your administration handle these competing calls for different types of energy usage throughout the nation?
Well, while also continuously investing in renewable energy, we cannot just simply stop drilling. We can begin investing in energy while also maintaining what we already have. We can't just get rid of something just because a new thing is introduced. By slowly phasing it out, sure, but right now isn't the time.
Senator Johnson, do you need a question repeated?
No, thank you. So, I agree, it is a very important thing, but I don't agree that now is not the time. This is the hottest June in recorded history last month. In the top 10, the last 9 have been the last 10 years. So I think it is now more than ever that we need to prioritize our environment as stewards of this earth to be as incorporating as possible that we can into economic concerns, into all of our policies and environmental concerns as well. Thank you.
Senator Sims, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yes, we should continue to protect our environment. An agricultural state that uses renewable energy. But we should also cut millions of jobs from oil workers that are working on the sea. There are American jobs at that. So if we begin to cut those out right now, we're losing millions of American jobs day by day, minute by minute. We can invest in energy, but continuously maintain what we already have.
Senator Johnson, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Absolutely agree, Senator. It is key that we invest in these things, but it is important that we understand the urgency of what's at hand. We need to not entirely get away from fossil fuels because it is a key part of our economy and a key part of our trade deals, but we need to understand that the impact that we are having on our environment right now is absolutely unsustainable, and just right now we are seeing the effects of the last 50 years. Imagine what's going to happen in 50 years from now. It will be unlivable. We need to stop this crisis as soon as we can. It is of utmost national urgency.
Senator Johnson, this is the last question. The United States is facing unprecedented levels of animosity among their fellow citizens and individuals who disagree politically. Calls for unity and civil discourse are too often not taken into account. What will you do as president to bring our country together and encourage civil disagreement?
I absolutely agree that this nation is going down a path that we just cannot continue to follow. And I believe that calls to action are great, but action itself is what's going to make the difference. And as your president, I will make sure by the bipartisanship of my appointments and the bipartisanship of which I make my decisions, by building a cabinet, and by having civil discourse like this, that we can continue towards a stronger path, towards a more civilized country, and continue to look at that red, white, and blue banner, look at that blue, and look at that red, and love it all the same. Thank you so much.
Senator Sims, do you need the question repeated?
America was built with disagreement. Not every author of the Constitution agreed with what everything was. Our nation is constantly being divided by something we call the media. And yes, it is allowed, but calls to action do work if we put action towards it. Yes, I understand that. We need to begin communication with each other. Encourage civil discourse all the time. It is okay to disagree. It is also okay to negotiate and come in the middle. Sometimes talking it out is the best way we can handle disagreements.
Senator Johnson, you have 30 seconds.
Absolutely agree with you, sir. It is important that we talk about these things, but I just want to re-emphasize the importance of action. And I believe from your statements that action is not on the top of that agenda. And I just feel like we need to be very careful about how we handle what we're talking about here, because everyone in this nation is at risk right now from the democracy that is falling apart. And I believe that clear action by partisanship through agreements and through support of Congress is about time.
You have 30 seconds.
When we speak about clear action, appointing people from the other parties doesn't solve civil discourse. Communication, talking to the people, understanding where they're coming from, getting their disagreements is how we solve it. Just reaching over to the other side on legislation is not how we solve the problem. Go out, go in the field, talk to the people. That is
Gentlemen, that was the last question for our presidential candidates. We will begin our vice presidential debate now, with the presidential candidates delivering their closing remarks at the conclusion of the vice presidential debate. Senator Williams, you have 1 minute for your opening remarks.
Hello, I am Josh Williams, and I stand before you not as a leader, not as a spokesperson, but as a representative. Like I mentioned earlier with my Rubik's Cube analogy, there's a lot of different opinions out there. And even if both people are leaning conservative or more liberal, they're not going to agree on everything. But luckily, there's a thing called compromise, which I'm sure by the end of all these campaign speeches you are familiar with. And I promise you that as we look at the red, white, and blue, that we can find that civil discourse, that we can find those similarities, and that we can focus on them. Because by focusing on our disagreements, that's how we get that animosity. But even if we have just as much difference, by focusing on the similarities, and maybe focusing right now on an agenda that utilizes those similarities, that is how we make progress, and that is how we have a successful Senate. Thank you.
Senator Parikh, you have 1 minute for your opening remarks.
Senators, did we have a good dinner today? Yeah! So I'm glad to see that y'all are all fed. Hopefully y'all are awake for this debate, but I'm going to do my best. And I want to thank y'all for putting me up on this stage. I really hope to represent y'all. Now, y'all do know y'all have my phone number, and if you don't, please come up to me again. Email 2 works. But, I'm here to represent each and every one of you. That's why I gave you my phone number. I want to show you that I'm accessible to each and every one of you. Now, I agree completely with Senator Josh. Civil discourse is completely needed. Like Corey said at the beginning of Boys Nation, just because someone has a different viewpoint than you, it doesn't mean they're your enemy, it's just your opposition. We're going to have to find a way to come together, and that's why I feel like communication is the most important aspect of this debate and of these candidates on this stage. So, again, if there's anything I can do for y'all, please let me know. Thank y'all for putting me up here. I really appreciate it, and I'm so proud to call myself your brother.
So the first question for Senator Parikh. Veterans benefits have recently been historically expanded through the PACT Act, allowing more veterans than ever to receive the important care that they deserve. Some have said that this expansion of benefits has taken much too long, and believe there is still much more to do. If elected, what will your administration do to continue to support our nation's veterans and service members?
So, as we all know, we wouldn't be here without the American Legion, and I think veterans are an integral part of this nation, right? We wouldn't be here without their service, and we wouldn't be here without the sacrifices they made. We stand on the shoulders of giants, truly. So, what I propose to do is we take money, a slight chunk out of the DoD, and move it towards veteran benefits, because they are, at the end of the day, are the people who are fighting for us. Better veteran benefits can also bring people into the military and into the service branches, which again helps us in the future, it helps us secure democracy, and it solves a lot of issues we have today in the world. For example, if you look at Ukraine and Russia, we know that democracy is being fought against really hard. We see China expanding with the Belt Road Initiative. The only way that democracy can move forward in a healthy manner is if the United States stays on top, and that comes with our veterans and service members first.
Senator Williams, do you need the question repeated?
I do not.
You have 1 minute.
It is very important to realize not only the current situation, but the look to the future. And this act has done wonderful strides for our country, not only for our veterans, but for the future generations. Like Rohan just stated, not only are veterans good for the security of our country, but I would like to add that they do in fact inspire the next generation. I mean, just look at what these people have given to us and how many future leaders in the military we have out here. That is amazing. But it's also important to realize that this does not only inspire the future, but that we have to give back to them for their deeds. And this is why I believe that we need to ensure mental health not only when they get home, but starting before they get home. To not only make the adjustment to home easier, but to ensure that they can be safer with their families, that they can get back on their feet, and continue inspiring the next generation of our country.
Senator Tariq, you have 30 seconds.
So I mentioned earlier that my plan to do this is taking a little money out of DoD and supporting our veterans. So I didn't go into depth on that, so let me do that now. What we're going to do with this money is, again, like Senator Josh said, we're going to go and build better mental health institutions for veterans, both at home and abroad, before, during, and after service. And we're going to make sure that they know what they're walking into when they get there. We're also going to make housing more affordable for them. We're going to make sure that they have the adequate amount of jobs to get through. So thank you.
Senator Williams, you have 30 seconds.
I'm not here to disagree with anything Rohan said. I believe that this is not a partisan issue. I believe we can all agree on many, many things. And I believe that both institutions, both administrations would have very similar implementations. And all we can say is we thank God every day for our veterans and all that they have done for us. We strive continually to give back to them mentally, physically, financially, and in any capacity we can. Thank you.
Senator Williams, many American families struggle to afford child care throughout the nation. The average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. If elected, what would your administration do to make child care more affordable?
Thank you, sir. The biggest problem facing our nation right now is wages. And by our administration, I vow that we will increase the minimum wage. And I'll tell you why. I know a lot of people have issues with this, that it's going to lead to, people and small businesses having to shut down, but it will be the crucial step. 91% of kids who are impoverished because of wage stagnations. This is because we need to increase these wages so not only their parents can support them, but as they grow up, they can start providing more and more to not only our economy, but for their own future. Each of us have our own endeavors, but we have no chance of getting through college, starting a family, and pursuing an occupation if we can't get there. And this is exactly why I believe we need to increase the minimum wage, not by a whole lot, but by a little bit, to secure the financial security of this next generation.
Senator, you need a question repeated.
No, sir.
You have
So,
1 minute.
thank you. So I have a few ideas of what we're going to do in terms of childcare. So in my mind, the first thing that comes up is healthcare. So healthcare innovation is what we're going to move to. Healthcare innovation can come from foreign direct investment from other nations, allowing us to build a stronger and better economy as a whole, right? And so innovations inherently decrease costs, which take away the lofty prices for many American families struggling to pay. Now the second thing that comes to mind is education. So I think that the government should have, and my government as well, should have more direct access and funding to schools and to families who have children going to school, because at the end of the day, our children are our future, right? And so if the government is able to support these people financially, giving them money, making our education system better, at the end of the day, we come out as a better nation.
Senator Williams, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Well, I agree that education, not only for our adults, but specifically, as Rohan stated, for our future generation, is absolutely critical. However, I do not believe it is the best answer to this question in this case. While it does come with a lot of benefits, when it comes to child health care specifically, we need these families to just get more money. And if you have any more clarification, I'd love that. But what it comes down to is we need money, and minimum wages would fix that. Thank you.
Right, so the reason I didn't mention minimum wage in my speech is because competitiveness in a competitive economy inherently brings up prices, right? Like, if there's 10 people, right, and there's one job, then that job is going to be paying more than if there's 10 jobs open in one person, right? Like, the competitiveness forces companies to pay more to their citizens, which in turn allows us to increase the minimum wage without changing legislation. This allows for a more immediate change, helping more Americans sooner.
Time is up. Senator Parikh, let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans, the opioid epidemic. The number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Despite the efforts of many, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will your administration do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need? You have 1 minute.
So there's 3 things that I would do. The first thing is find out where these drugs are coming from. Let's say they're coming from the border. We're going to put tighter restrictions on the border and make sure that these drugs aren't coming across and hurting our Americans. The second thing I would do would go straight to the kids, the teenagers like us. We need to make sure that these children aren't going into or aren't influenced by their surroundings and thinking that drugs is a good thing, drugs is a way to escape. We need to make sure that mentally they're fit and they don't ever have to go down that path. And now the final thing that I want to do is rehabilitation, because currently right now there are people using drugs, and that's just the sad reality of it. But the only way to prevent them from reusing again is treatment. It's going through therapy, and if the federal government will put more money towards that, we can save millions of lives.
You have 1 minute.
I have 2 exact answers on how we are not only going to provide a blanket code solution to fix what has already been done, but to fix the root cause of this problem. Beginning with the southern border, as Rohan examined, we need to build up our border infrastructure, build up our border patrol to ensure that this fentanyl and other harmful opioids will not be getting into our nation into the first place for people to potentially use. While I would not always agree with his increased education, as there has not been a substantial impact from drug education, while I do believe there is a purpose for it, that would need to be reformed and we would need increased capabilities for that. The root cause comes from allowing doctors to prescribe. In fact, in Alabama, Arkansas, and Tennessee, more opioid prescriptions are given out each year than there are residents in the state. That is a problem, and if we do not fix that, we will continue to have these problems. Thank you.
Senator Parikh, you have 30 seconds.
Right, so prescription is one thing, and that goes back to the medical innovation point I made earlier. Medical innovation will also be able to bring down the cost of medicine first. And it's going to provide better and safer alternatives for these people. This issue that my fellow senator brought up doesn't happen in my world. In my world, with medical innovation, we bring up the minimum wage, we bring people out of poverty, we make sure that people aren't abusing drugs. Locking down our southern border solves this problem, and he didn't respond to the treatment argument either. Treatment thing.
Thank you. Senator Williams, you have 30 seconds.
First and foremost, I would like to just say that Rohan just advocated for an increased minimum wage, which he directly contradicted in his last statement. So, because he has to pick a side now, if he wants an increased minimum wage or a decreased minimum wage, two very separate things. But what I would continually push for is solving the root cause at the southern border, while also maintaining the fact that we need to fix this within our country and ensure that doctors are only prescribing to those who need it. Thank you.
Senator Williams, no other developed nation in the world has medical debt and medical bankruptcies as we do here in the United States. Health-related issues cause an estimated 530,000 Americans to file for bankruptcy every year. What is your plan for ending this crisis and reducing the rising out-of-pocket costs for American consumers?
Thank you, sir. I believe that citizens of this nation should not have to choose between health and wealth. This is a very big point, and something I would like to talk about for specifically the out-of-pocket costs. When we look at it, obviously cost of this medical care should be much lower, but specifically answering this question, the out-of-pocket costs, I would push for more health savings accounts. Non-tax medical money that can go into your savings account that won't, because it's not taxed, means you'll be getting more money. So if you have out-of-pocket costs, this is where our citizens will be getting their money and their financial security for the future. Thank you.
Senator Parikh, do you need the question repeated?
No, sir. So, like I've been advocating the entire time I've been on this stage, medical innovation is a way forward. Medical innovation is going to decrease costs because inherently innovation means that there's a change in the system. There's going to be things that are safer, which help our drug abuse problem. There's going to be things that are cheaper. Otherwise, people wouldn't buy it. It wouldn't be innovation, right? And so, going back to this medical innovation point, making it cheaper helps every single American afford healthcare, but it also puts more money into their pockets. Now, I want to address the point that was made earlier. I did not say that we're going to increase minimum wage. I said that the competitiveness of the medical innovation field inherently causes companies to pay their employees more, putting more money in our Now, at the end of the day, Americans are always going to have health care, right? We need to also make sure that these pharmaceutical companies can't charge insane markups on their products. Who have, with grandparents who have, who require insulin, I understand the cost, and I think that that also needs to be brought up.
Time. You have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I agree, Rohan. And in a world where, medical innovation is, at an all-time high, I fully support this innovation. And I believe that under the Federalist values, that we cannot waste resources and that we cannot waste funds, resources, lives. I believe that this is something that both me and my running mate can fully agree with. Sorry, I spaced his name. I'm completely sorry. I know it's Jeremy Johnson.
Senator Parikh, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Right, so he pretty much agreed with my whole medical innovation point, dropping his own medical insurance point. So I think that medical innovation is the only way forward. It's what most candidates see eye to eye on, and I want to thank you for agreeing with me.
This is our final question for the Vice President candidates. Senator Parikh. The record number of undocumented migrants includes some individuals who have lived here their whole lives, and include the spouses of U.S. citizens and those who have jobs. How will your administration handle the undocumented migrants who have lived here for decades?
So just to preface, my parents immigrated to this country, and I understand how difficult that immigration process is. The only way forward is to make that process of immigration easier. By letting people in the legal way, we not only boost our own economy, helping people come in the legal way, preventing the spread of drugs, but we also make it more competitive. We make a more competitive job market, which is what I've been advocating for this whole time. A more competitive job market inherently is going to increase what companies are willing to pay their employees, right? And so by doing so, and by making the immigration process easier, by assigning more federal judges to the border, and to people who want to immigrate. We help every single American via the economy, and we help every single American via innovation.
Senator Williams, can you question repeated?
Yes.
The record number of documented migrants include some individuals who have lived here their whole lives, and include the spouses of U.S. citizens and those who have jobs. How will your administration handle the undocumented migrants who have lived here for decades? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. I believe that there are a couple of reasons how we can fix this. A lot of reasons why people get into here illegally after working in our country for so long is because of worker and education visas. I believe that when people come into our country and they start on this work visa, but then they don't actually leave. They stay here, and even though they are benefiting our economy, obviously, in an ideal world, we would like to support them legally. And so by providing incentives to these citizens on worker or education visas, by getting them through college, by allowing them to keep working, we can eventually elect them into our actual system, or bring them into our actual system, allow them to benefit the United States economy legally. Thank you.
Senator Parikh, you have 30 seconds.
To be completely honest, I disagree. So I think that these people who came here on work visas are here for a reason. They want to benefit the economy, and the only reason that they aren't able to get citizenship earlier is because it takes so long. If we assign more federal judges to this issue, we can bring these people in legally. Not only will their money be going into our taxes, helping Social Security, helping our veterans in the long run, helping our infrastructure, but we can also benefit the entire nation, right? So these people are people too, and we need to make sure they're American citizens. We want to all live lives without our taxes.
Senator Williams, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. This is also something that our administration, me and Morgan's administration, would stand for, making citizenship easier. I completely agree. It is a very tough issue, and it is something that makes being illegal immigrants such a big incentive. My brother-in-law is from Nigeria, and he's currently having to spend several years to try to become an actual citizen. He is under a student visa right now, and by making it easier, we would fix this problem. Thank you.
As that was the last question for our vice presidential candidates, we will now have closing remarks from our vice presidential candidates. Senator Parikh, you have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Hey, I want to thank y'all again for putting me up here, and thank y'all for listening to me. You know, we might not see eye to eye on every single issue, but I'm here for you. You have my number, and I want you to reach out to me, whether that be for all stars like Michael or whatever Jack you wanted earlier. So I'm here for y'all, you know, and our policies might not be eye to eye, but again, the only way to move forward as a nation is civil discourse, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to listen to each and every one of your ideas. I can't promise that every single one of your bills will pass through, but I'm willing and ready to openly debate each and every one of them. So thank you all. Thank you all for letting me be your brother. I really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Senator Williams, you have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
I thank you all for being here and for having this civil discourse. I know we're all leaders here and that we have, 4 final people. I think that unity is ultimately what brings us together. I mean, that's what unity is. And I believe it's no coincidence that red and blue happen to be next to each other on Rubik's Cube. And I believe that under the right hands and under the Johnson and Williams administration, you will see that unity, you will see that brotherhood, and especially that efficiency. I thank you all for letting me join you here, and we'll see you later.
We will now hear closing remarks from our presidential candidates. Senator Johnson, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds for your closing remarks.
Gentlemen, first off, it's been an absolute honor. Senator, it has been an honor to run alongside you, and I look forward to our lifelong friendship far past just a simple office. Now, As we go into the future, as we look towards the next level of innovation, the next generation, AI, globalization, how are we going to adapt our educational curricula? How are we going to adapt for the future of jobs? We need to start having these discussions now, and that will be the top of my administration's bracket. We are in a position to place our hands on the arc of history and bend it towards the hope of a better day. We have that chance uniquely as a great generation of young trailblazers to craft that trail up the hill towards the top of the mountaintop, a more perfect union. I hope to work alongside you throughout this great and noble role. My friends, my fellow Federalists and Nationalists, my fellow Americans, thank you for this opportunity to be your potential president.
Senator Sims, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds for your closing remarks.
I would be a terrible Arkansan if I did not thank the Arkansas Boys State for sending me here to represent. I'm a firm believer that unity is the path to freedom. Unity is a path to brotherhood. Unity is the path to a more perfect union. If I've taken anything out of this entire debate, if I've taken anything out of this entire week, is that the diverse group of people that are here are going to change our world, are going to bring our world to become a better place for our future generations. I always tell my team at Chick-fil-A, be great, share a smile, and continue to change the world. Those are words I want to share with you. Tomorrow, you'll vote. Tomorrow, you will make your decision on who the next Boys Nation president will be, and vice president. Have an open mind, pray about it, and continue to strive for goodness, greatness. Thank you.